We just watched Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania, and this is going to be a spoiler-free section. We will announce when spoilers are coming, so don't be alarmed by that. We're going to talk about that for 5 to 10 minutes, then get into spoilers. Richard, spoiler-free, what did you think of Quantumania?
I don't need spoilers to be able to tell you guys that this was hot garbage.
Ooh.
This was one of the first movies from Marvel that I was genuinely really bored and I wanted to leave the theater. And I stayed because you guys watching. I was like, well, got to upload something for Theater Ramble. I can't leave. So that's why I stayed.
The critics will generally agree with you. On Rotten Tomatoes, this is the second MCU film ever to get a Rotten score, the first one being Eternals, and they are a percentage point away from each other. People are hating it. I've also looked on some reviews online. The public seems to, just the average fan, I've seen people saying this is the worst MCU film to date. Now, maybe you won't put that moniker on it, but what did you really dislike about this film?
The biggest problem for me, and there's quite a few of them, is Kang the Conqueror, the big bad of this movie and supposedly for the MCU. Now, without getting into spoilers, the actor does well, but the stuff that they're giving him just sucked. His writing, terrible. His motivations in this one and just the plot surrounding him, awful. The choices were just so inconsistent and really did not make sense for the ending that we got. I'm not intimidated. The guy is a poor villain. So that's my biggest problem, but there's plenty of others.
There's others when we'll get into spoilers, but what did you rate it out of 10, the film?
I gave it a very objective. I spent some time. Looking at this, you know, running the numbers, running the science.
Yeah.
I gave it a 3.6.
Rambler rating of 3.6.
Oh, Rambler rating of 3.6.
Okay. And
with our scores, how that broke down.
So, yeah, Richie's scores will be broken down here, and that's how we get our total out of 10 by breaking down those 5 categories. My out of 10 is a on the dot 4 out of 10 for this film.
Nice.
So we're pretty on par here. You hated it a bit more than me, but we're close. We're close.
We're about close, yeah.
And I'm agreeing it's not a good movie. I wouldn't recommend to go and, you don't have to rush to go watch this one for sure. Interestingly enough, I don't think it's the worst MCU film. There are worse. There's Eternals, there's Dark World, etc. It's definitely bottom tier. But I would say, as much as I dislike this film, I don't think it's the worst Ant-Man movie. I still disliked Ant-Man 2 more than Quantumania, the third film. Ant-Man 2 sucks. It's hey, fight me in the comments.
I know
it's a bad film.
I don't think a lot of people are going to defend Ant-Man 2.
But they might defend it over this movie if they've seen it, though.
Possibly.
I really dislike 2. But Quantumania, there are objective flaws with this movie. The plot is seriously flawed. Even if you're trying to enjoy the movie, it gets frustrating of why don't you, why. There's a lot of that.
Internally inconsistent. To the point of, like, I know it's superheroes. I get it. You're supposed to suspend your disbelief to a certain degree, but we'll get more into spoilers. Do you want to go right into them?
I just want to say, if you still aren't convinced to watch this or not, like, the dialogue, bad. Listen, I'm gonna try to be unbiased and give some little positive for people that think, because if you've seen other stuff in the past, we have not been the biggest superhero fans as of lately, the past year or so. There've been Black Adam, bad. Like, it's bad. You have Eternals, it's bad. We didn't like Multiverse of Madness either, so we're negative a lot on that. So that being said, if you're walking into this and you like the MCU films, it does have Paul Rudd. Paul Rudd is a genuine guy and makes even bad things come off funny and humorous, and he has that charm to him. Kang the Conqueror, written poorly, not even going to defend that, but Kang himself, played by Jonathan Majors, phenomenal actor. And he really does express that really well on screen. But there's so much bad to talk about. I just want to say, my 4 out of 10, it's not a 2, it's a 4. It's a big disappointment, but I'm most shocked that people are shocked that it's that disappointing. That's where I'd leave it in the spoiler-free section. Anything else you want to do before we get into spoilers?
No, I think that's about it. If you haven't watched the movie, go ahead and watch it before going into here. This is your spoiler warning.
We convinced you to watch it, obviously. Yeah, go watch it before.
Or if you don't care, just continue into the spoiler territory. Yeah. But this is your warning.
This is the warning. Spoiler starting now. So what specifically was your specific spoiler hated part about this movie? Because I have one I'm holding dear to me. Do you want me to let it out?
You go first, yeah.
The most infuriating part of this film, next to none, is when Janet, the wife of Hank, the entire time while they're traversing this quantum realm is constantly saying, I can't fill my family in because the plot gods told me I can't tell my family important critical information that might save their lives because, listen, I can't do it now. We're walking through a big quantum realm with no threat to us. We don't have the time. We need to walk for an hour.
They're actively being hunted by Kang the Conqueror, and they're like, nah. Tell us what's going on, please. We need to know what's chasing us, what's coming after us. And she's like, no, I can't say it. It's like, what? Oh. You just have to trust me. Oh. Just tell us.
Just say it, please. It got so frustrating.
It was ridiculous.
So frustrating. That was my top nitpick. Not even a nitpick. Complaint. Straight complaint line to that one.
I really hated the ending of how Kang the Conqueror is shown with his technology, being able to just, like, freeze people. Just like, oh, you're running away, and nope, frozen. And then I'm just going to go up, or when Lacey and
Cassie, you mean?
Cassie and
Paul Rudd's
character, Ant-Man, is stuck in the cells. He just throws them around like ant dolls. Just like
levitates them, tortures them.
Yeah, just can do that to them.
And then the problem being later in the film doesn't use those powers
at all. Like that would have ended the fight, or even worse. Like beyond that, Kang's walking out fighting all the rebels, and he's just blasting them. He vaporizes like 30 people. Boom, 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 just blasting all these people. And then our main characters come out, and he just stops blasting them, and it goes right into fisticuffs. Why? Why are you doing that? Just vaporize. They don't have shields. They don't have armor. Just vaporize, and you're dead.
This is a huge problem the MCU has had with their villains. They did this now with King and also with Wanda. Wanda in Multiverse of Madness was given such a power upgrade that they write themselves into a corner where if you could do practically anything, your magic system, what is your magic system? You're just giving them an unlimited capabilities. Then when they stop using it because it's convenient to the plot, it comes off as so uninspired, and it doesn't feel or what's the word I'm looking for?
Cathartic.
Yeah,
cathartic.
It doesn't feel cathartic at all because you don't want to think there's a writer there. The movie works if you don't have to think about how poorly it's written.
Yeah.
And it's just frustrating because Thanos was done so well. You knew what the Infinity Stones did. He actually won in Infinity War, and you knew what each power did. He used those powers like someone with the Infinity Gauntlet would, and you knew the capabilities and somewhat of the limits to them. With Kang, with Wanda, what are the limits to them? Why do you suddenly stop using those powers? It's really, really tough. They've written themselves in the corner.
And on an overarching problem for not just for this movie, but for the rest of Phase 5, for the MCU, this version of Kang was supposed to be the exiled one. The one that all the other Kangs had to gang up to exile. So he's the big bad Kang. The worst of the worst. The most powerful. The craftiest. All this stuff. And he loses to Ant-Man? He loses without the rest of the Avengers.
One of the weaker Avengers, too.
One of the weaker Avengers. And he just loses. He gets bodied. And he gets swarmed by a bunch of ants. And now I'm supposed to be anxious for the Avengers to take down any of the other Kangs. Why? Why should I?
No, fair point. Fair point. And
this movie, if they wanted to keep Kang the Conqueror and Ant-Man, keep most of the stuff the same, what they should have done is for this to be an escape movie. Kang doesn't lose here because he's the big bad for, like, you can't have him be the big bad and also lose in his first outing. That's not going to work. Just like
they did with Wanda. Like, Wanda could have been a great big bad, too. But
I wanted that so badly.
So badly.
But what this one should have been was Kang the Conqueror, in the quantum realm trying to escape, and then Ant-Man and the rest are trying to meet up and escape. Mm-hmm. They're not trying to beat Kang. They can't beat him. And Janet, she would explain to him early on, we're not beating Kang. That's not an option. We have to escape, and it would be an escape movie. And so Kang could still be powerful, but, Ant-Man and the family can get away still. And then both things are satisfied. You get an exciting single Ant-Man movie, and also Kang is still powerful and the big bad for the rest of the MCU.
Yeah.
That's what it should have been.
Yeah. Now, speaking of escapes as well, one of the also most cliche frustrating parts of the movie is how every time there was a scene where the daughter, Cassie, or someone was in or being walked with several guards were bringing to a jail cell or whatnot, they would just badass escape out of every single situation to the point of how many times are you just gonna escape and boom, boom, get the guards? And you're fine at the end of it.
I don't know if it's in recent times, but it does seem to be getting worse. I see it far more often.
In this movie, it got frustrating because it happened multiple times. And she's like, how there are movies that do this and do it well. Especially when, like, one of my favorite movies ever, Gladiator. He first gets out of that scene. First off, they hype him up as being one of the greatest generals ever, and it sets it up. And it's also done that once. So this film just did that so often, and the dialogue.
How many times was it where they, both MODOK and Kang, had them in their sights, had no reason to keep them alive, and then just didn't shoot and didn't kill them? And it wasn't even creatively edited in a way where it was like split-second decisions. It was like holding them. I finished my monologue, and I'm just holding the gun at you and not firing. My monologue's finished, so there's nothing. And then there's several seconds of just kind of staring, and then something, Deus Ex Machina, comes in to save him. It's not even poorly... It's poorly shot to even make it believable. It's ridiculous how many times that happened.
And there was a lot of dialogue and the world building with this quantum realm. Now, I'll give it this. The visuals, it's very expensive. It looks cool. I thought there were a lot of shots. If I'm being super critical hat, there's a lot of shots where they cut and it was bad. Just they cut scene. Oh, something big reveal. Cut. A lot of that I didn't like. But the dialogue, every time they were going through the world, it was they would ask a question to tell the audience what it was. There was the scene in the beginning where daughter Cassie was like, "Is that a sun coming to attack us?" or whatever it was. And then, yeah, it's a sun coming to attack. Or, is that a talking building? Someone else said, yeah, it's a talking building. We see it's a moving talking building. And then where Hank's in the fighter going, is this thing do I put my arms in this thing? Or where are the controls? Oh, he said, like, are these the controls? Yeah, you could have just shown us those were the controls. So it had this awful thing of telling you throughout the dialogue what you could show in this beautiful world that you could create, which really reminisced of a Star Wars like setting, just a bunch of aliens. And the rebels were, I was apathetic to the characters. It was just a bunch of rebels and you couldn't really connect. I didn't connect with them. Well, I don't know.
This movie is starting to have a lot of these MCU movies feel like it's just a hodgepodge. Like when they go through multiple dimensions or with Multiverse of Madness, there were those couple of like the bull, the Minotaur who was with them, and just like the alien species just seem like a hodgepodge, and there's no kind of consistency. Like, if you look at the quantum realm, the people in the quantum realm, it's really hard to tell that they're from the quantum realm or they're from some other...
Like, where is Bill Murray from? Also, he was in the movie. Where'd
what
that
a
go?
worthless cameo.
What happened there?
Who cares? He wasn't even that... He just came in, and he was so unimportant to the story and not really fun either. Like, didn't do some good jokes, or it was a waste.
Now, I want to take my foot off the pedal for a second.
Yeah.
A lot of complaints, and we're going to continue complaints in a second. But again, I do want to reiterate, Paul Rudd was he was the star.
I'll actually disagree with you on the Paul Rudd thing.
With what?
I don't think he's given a lot in this movie.
No, he's not given a lot. What I say about Paul Rudd is that his facial expressions and his humor and his timing make what would otherwise be really bad. Like, he makes it pretty tolerable and fun at times. Like, for example, in the scene where there's all the infinite probabilities of Ant-Man, and you have the one from Baskin-Robbins, and he just makes it charming and fun. It's Paul Rudd, so he's still there. I wish it was him in a different movie, but he makes it more enjoyable. And there was even scenes with, I think we talked about this beforehand, but with what was that robot, the big Spy Kids MODOK. I did like his death scene. That made me chuckle. His death scene was like, he went, "Oh, I finally died an Avenger," and then Paul Rudd's facial expression just makes it nice and funny. That doesn't make it a good movie. It makes there's some good moments, there's some levity, and the big battle scene, although plot problems, yes. It's still a spectacle. Maybe we're a bit jaded because MCU's become so big. If this film came out 10 years ago, we would have been like, whoa, that's a massive and expansive, whoa, that's a lot of stuff, because technology's gotten so good. Yeah. So we've definitely become jaded because there's been a lot of superhero movies and we're comparing it to others. Aside from visuals, though, this has a lot of the fundamental problems of just a movie. And that's what I think is important to point out. It's not that we can't say that this isn't the worst movie of all time, But there's some genuine problems with King the Conqueror being the biggest thing, because this is Phase 5. They're finally trying to get a direction going, because Phase 4 seems so aimless. So this one, is it King the Conqueror? That's the direction they're going, and then it ends with the exiled one being killed, maybe, at least defeated, maybe.
But let's say, even if he lives, he lost. First out, he lost to Ant-Man. Okay, now he's gonna go up against all the Avengers. Ooh, scared. No,
I guess the stakes being raised would be that there's an infinite number of kings that are going to team up. So if you have, if one king, the argument would be if one king did that much, imagine tens of thousands of kings. How do you stop that level of threat? Now, it would be cooler if the exiled one, you know, so you could connect with them in future movies and whatnot, but that would be the raising of the stakes. So I see it, and I'll give this one caveat to my dislike to the movie. At least it seems like there's somewhat of a direction. I sound like such a privy critic right now. Like, it's an MCU film, all right? I get it. The one thing of just sitting back, relaxing, watching a movie, I get it.
Ultimately, but the reason why I was bored and I disliked it so much is I get people talk about how Marvel is like soulish cash grabs. You hear that criticism frequently. However, I thought that was more so in this one than most other MCU movies, where I didn't like Thor: Love and Thunder particularly. I didn't like the direction it went. But it clearly had someone behind the camera, and people cared. They just didn't go in the direction I liked. But at least there was some type of soul behind it, trying something out. This one, it felt like paint by numbers, content. Like, I would have no idea who directed this. It had no unique style. It had no vision. Everyone looked kind of bored to be there.
The lighting was bad.
Lighting was bad.
Again, it's like, the lighting's bad. It's supposed to be a superhero movie. I get it. But
Hope, when she's standing around, almost every scene that she's in, she's looking like she's in a superhero stance. And this awkward stance, everyone else standing normal, and she just kind of standing a superhero pose, ready to fire her little blasters.
I didn't notice that, but you're probably right.
It was just weird and awkward. It's just one of those little things that took away from it. I personally don't want to watch MCU movies much anymore, but we do a podcast. So.
Yeah, we do. Well, yeah, we have videos on this, and there was also the Rick and Morty kind of humor there with the thousands of ants, the ants that live thousands of years in the space of just however many hours, and that have come to Deus Ex Machina the day and whatnot, right? So they did put humor in there. Some of it hit, a lot of it didn't. And I guess to summarize this, and I think you'd feel the same, I'm not super shocked. We have not been the biggest superhero fans in general for the past year or so. Like, I so badly want to watch an MCU film with you, and we get on here and we are just hyped.
I just want to be simple and fun.
Time. Yeah. There are so many great superhero films out there.
It doesn't need to be Citizen Kane. Just entertaining.
But I could name so many of some of my favorite films, not of all time, but like, you know, Thor Ragnarok, Infinity War, Spider-Verse, all the original Spider-Man trilogy.
Oh yeah.
No Way Home that recently came out. There are so many great superhero movies that some of them they don't even try to do too much. Like Thor Ragnarok is a pretty simple plot.
Yeah.
It's just the humor hits. It combines humor and serious moments perfectly. Taika Waititi does a phenomenal job there. And now you got to complain when there's complaints to be had, and you got to give praise when there's praise to be had. I think this is the one that definitely needs more complaints.
Sure.
So, anything else you want to say about this film?
I think that's about it.
I think we aired our grievances. There's more, but we don't want to talk everybody's ears off.
But hey, let us know down below what you guys think of the movie as well. Give us a like and go ahead and subscribe to our channel if you're looking forward to more of our content. And I guess we'll start seeing you guys in the next video.
Yes, we will. All right.
Bye-bye.
See you, everybody.